Now, tomorrow, Friday, if you are in England, in all parts of it, there will be a new law which will require you to wear a face covering or a mask of some description when you go into a shop. Now, the police will be charged with carrying out this particular law, as will be people who run the shops. However, as I've said before, I can't really see that happening. We're going to talk now to Alison Hernandez from Devon and Cornwall Police and Crime Commission. She's the actual commissioner. Alison, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
Now, you put a statement out a couple of days ago talking about this particular change in the law, suggesting that the police would not be in Devon and Cornwall in a position to kind of police it, as it were.
Well, yeah, one of the things I've actually been trying to explain, because I want to make sure public expectation is not raised, that they just start ringing the police for everybody who's not wearing a face mask in a shop.
Right.
That's not the aim of the legislation. The aim is to help implore people to wear one, and we want shopkeepers to play their part, because otherwise they're going to lose custom if so many people are coming in without wearing face masks, because people will stop going to shop in their shop. And obviously the police will be there to support if there's something that turns into a disorder, assault, if it's getting to a point where people are concerned about their safety, then they can call the police. But we don't want routine calls around people not wearing face masks.
Are you likely to be putting more police out sort of on the streets where the shops are to kind of keep an eye on things?
Well, we've got two things running at the moment. One is because we're the #1 domestic tourist destination in the country, we have a huge summer surge of visitors, 45 million overnight stays in a normal year.
Right.
So we already have a summer policing plan, which is putting more streets out visibly in places and spaces where the public are going to be. I've also personally introduced a scheme which involves street marshals, which is to help people be reminded of some of the rules while they're out and about on the streets, and we've got some of those in a couple of our town centres where they feel they need a bit more extra support.
Yes, we were talking to one of our guests the other day who said that, he's a doctor in fact, and he said that there was in London a couple of police officers standing outside a tube station, and if anybody was walking into that tube station not wearing a mask, they were asked to put one on. Nothing apparently came from that as much as any incidents are concerned. But what's your actual active advice to your individual officers in terms of how they approach it, what they do if they see somebody trying to go into a shop without a mask on?
Well, obviously the chief constable of our force, as is all forces, will be directing those officers. But obviously, clearly, what I'm doing is we'll be speaking to the chief constable, seeing how it's going, like we have through the whole of COVID, and if need be, we'll be doing some scrutiny on the work that they did, as I did with their fixed penalty notices issues, because we were the third top force in the country issuing fixed penalty notices. So we don't take the issue lightly, but I just want there to be an awareness that we don't want the public ringing in, and that's where the demand will come into our call centres, and that will be unsustainable throughout our summer. We have a 10% increase in crime during the summer, so we can't afford to be distracted where people are concerned about just people not wearing a face mask.
And are you empowered to do sort of on the spot fines?
At the moment, the fixed penalty notices is something that is continued since the beginning of lockdown, so they can still be issuing them if police officers feel the need to do so in the right circumstances. And at the moment, it's pretty much stopped, because what's overtaken the COVID policing is ordinary policing, because everybody's out and about now. Antisocial behaviour has really increased. Lots more calls about disorder, alcohol disorder. You've seen some of those, I'm sure, and talked about some of those challenges that we've had since we've eased lockdown. So they've been very busy doing ordinary policing at the moment.
No, absolutely. And as far as the holidaymakers are concerned, there does seem to be an awful lot of people, just from my own anecdotal evidence, in Devon and Cornwall at the moment already having been on holiday for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and do you know, my biggest concern at the moment, I've met a number of elderly people who literally have had panic attacks when we eased lockdown, because they were so frightened to go outside, even though they had their own face mask and understood the rules. So I think this guidance from government is about trying to give people confidence to go out and do that shopping and help our businesses thrive. But we've got that balance really of making sure that we're not over expecting a bit too much of a heavy-handed policing approach during this time.
But I think because of the word compulsory, I think that's what's given people the wrong idea. And I think there are some people certainly who are fed up with the idea that they are being told they must wear a mask, and they're saying to me, well, we're not going to go to the shops if that's the case. So actually it might have the reverse effect on the economy.
Possibly, and actually that is everybody's right. And I think people, this is the best thing we can do, is give people the advice of how they can stay safe.
Yeah.
And I've always say, no matter what is going on around you, you keep your 6 foot distance and wash your hands and don't touch your face. If you're worried about what everyone else is doing, you just do that. And if you understand the risk in your community, you can decide to choose where you go and what you do. And I think we'll have to just see how this plays out over the next few weeks, really.
Sure. And in some of the previous cases of punishments being handed out by the police, whether it was an on-the-spot fine for travelling when you shouldn't have been and all of that, I know the CPS had a problem with prosecuting some of these cases because they said they couldn't work out which laws had actually been broken. Are we going to have the same problem with this?
Oh, we'll have to wait and see on that as well, won't we? I think the whole thing is we're all working in this in fast time, and everyone's just doing their best to help people follow the guidance. So I think we're just going to have to see how that plays out. I know in terms of fixed penalty notices, we've got to recoup that money as well. So we're at the point now of that will be the next challenge to look at. Have we actually people paid their fines, and what does that look like going forward? Because if they're not, and there's lots of challenges, it'll end up being something that won't be a useful thing to use.
Well, that's right. And also, if the law isn't really enforceable, it's not really a law, is it?
Well, I think the challenge we've got at the moment is really we want the public to understand the risk in their area and take their own and make their own decisions about what they're going to do, where they're going to go, and all they can do is listen to the guidance. The thing that we've had to do in this crisis is trust the government. They have the information that we don't have about how all of this works, and I think that's where we're at still at the moment. And until we come out of this crisis in a little bit more time, we'll be able to start reflecting on things that might be done differently.
Yeah. Do you think it might have been helpful if they actually supplied the masks? Because certainly in Spain and other European countries, people were given masks, which kind of, I think, because for some people, to buy a mask for £5 is quite a big outlay.
Oh, I agree. I was in a shop the other day, $5.99 they were selling one of these disposable masks for. It's absolutely shocking.
Right.
I'm really worried as well. Well, particularly, I think shopkeepers might want to have a small supply of them, because if you think people who are street homeless and people who are also mentally unwell or unable to comprehend what the guidance or rules mean, they might need a little bit of help.
Right.
And we want shopkeepers to try and be helpful, and I know some of our food banks in particular, the charities running some of those, are actually getting a supply of masks to give to some of the most vulnerable people so that they have got them.
Right, okay. Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, Alison. Thanks very much indeed. Alison Hernandez, Devon and Cornwall Police and Crime Commissioner there, talking about the complications of actually policing this entire business, because we've been speaking about it all week. We will speak about it some more coming up after midday, because shopkeepers are not going to want to get themselves into trouble by allowing people into their shops without masks on. But by the same token, they might not feel as if they can be confident enough to tell people you can't come in unless you've got a mask on. Because if the person doesn't have a mask and they want to come in, then what happens? And what we've heard there from Alison Hernandez is what they don't want is people ringing up the cops to say, could you come down and arrest some people because they've come into my shop without masks on? It's all a bit of a mess, isn't it?